Hey everybody, welcome back to CALLOUS Draft Duel. Just a few minutes ago, I finished up commenting on the Tyros and Zakaru draft, which will also be on YouTube, of course, by the time you guys see this. But you know what? There was another draft that finished today, and I've got a little bit of time right now, so might as well do that one as well and not fall behind. This is more quarterfinals action between Arctic, as you can see on the left, he's our player 1 today, and Gang on the right in blue. He's going to be our player 2. Arctic is a unique critter, to be sure. He's very, very stall and grind oriented in OU. In draft, he certainly leans defensive, but that doesn't mean that he can't turn on the gas. He's been really, really weird about spikers in draft up to this point, and a big part of his strategy is just to basically take or ban every spiker. And we'll see if he does that here. Gang has been a little more traditional, a little more versatile. Let the draft come to him. He's looked like quite a strong player. I'm not super duper familiar with him prior to this tournament, but watching the games and the drafts, it's like, okay, this guy's pretty good. This guy knows what he's doing. So this is going to be a real test for Arctic, who's probably on paper favored as the better player, air quotes, but I don't think Gang's going to be afraid of him. I think Gang can hang, and I'm very much looking forward to see how this one plays out. So without further ado, Arctic and Gang quarterfinal action. Here is their draft. And Arctic, unsurprising, well, a little bit surprising. He's been banning spikers all along. However, it's not like the good spiker. Not Scarm, not Fori, but Cloister is the first overall ban from Arctic. It's unusual. I don't think a single other player up to this point has first round banned Cloister, but it's just his strategy. The way that this dude plays ADV is win spike, spin war, win game, and one way to do that is take a spiker spinner out of play immediately and probably take the other ones far earlier than other people would. He plays the way that he wants to play. Can't argue with the results. Arctic's unique, and it's cool to see someone who has their own style and does things a different way. So expect picks like this all draft long. It's just Arctic being Arctic. So the more traditional ban of the better spiker, at least on paper, happens here for Gang. Gets rid of Scarm. Arctic continuing his shenanigans. Roselia as a first-round ban. Yeah, that poke is not even picked in the vast majority of drafts, but Arctic's going to make damn sure it's not picked by taking it out in the first round. That's basically a wasted ban, but rather than picking like Raticate or something that's genuinely, utterly, completely useless, it just goes with his theme of controlling spikes, taking out all the spikers. He's going to pick or ban all of them. Not sure that Roselia is necessarily the thing that I would have banned, but it does learn spikes. You got me there, Arctic. I must admit, it does learn spikes. Cannot deny. Gang on the other side takes out Tyranitar, and with these two weird bans from Arctic, Cloister and Roselia, the world is his oyster. Do you want Zapdos, Metagross, Salamence, Gengar, Aerodactyl, Snorlax, Raikou, all of it, all available to you? What would you like? There's so much power. And he decides, given all the options, he's going to go with good old Metagross. Can't blame him. This is like the consensus #1 pick so far in this. Can't go too far wrong. Going to be good on any squad and against any squad. Meta, certainly a power pick, and probably going to start getting banned more and more as we progress through the tournament. Gang is going to opt for Snorlax and Raikou. Interesting that he does not value Zapdos here. Snorlax has been a big pick. I still have mixed feelings. It's difficult to deal with, even with, quote, counters, or at least soft counters on the other side, such as Leech Seed users. I've seen it already get going and have a big impact on games and be very difficult for the opponent to kill. But on the other hand, there are just so many things that are difficult for it, whether it is wheezing, whether it's a plethora of good fighters in this format, whether it's any Leech Seed user. There's just a lot of things that counter it. Regirock is good against it. Metagross is good against it. I'm not sure. I feel like Lax can be built against and can be dealt with. But at the same time, even when you do that, sometimes it's just really good anyway. So I truly have mixed feelings, but if he's going to take Raikou, then taking the Lax has more value because obviously as the Raikou drafter, you don't want to play against the Lax. So I'm fine with this 1 and 2. I just have very mixed feelings and unsure feelings so far about how I feel about Lax as a whole in this format. But like I said, if you're going to take Raikou, taking Lax, totally fine. Very common response to someone who takes Snorlax is by taking Celebi, and that's what's going to happen here. And then Salamence as well is just one of the better Pokemon available. It's going to be a threat after DD, could just one-hit KO Raikou. It's reasonably good against Lax, but it obviously wants to wash out for things like Body Slam power or getting boomed on. But good Mon for sure, and nothing too funky outside of these bans in the early goings of this draft. Gang is going to take Zapdos now, can't blame him. Gengar, frequently banned out in this tournament. Going to grab that in his second round of picks. Again, can't blame him. These picks are going to look and seem even stronger in round 1 than they usually do because of these weird bans. There's still a lot of power left. And the response, looking at 3 special attackers already on the other side. This is pretty unsurprising. Gonna opt for Blissey. Hard to not take it here with Raikou, Zapdos, Gengar on the other side. Now, granted, these all have various level of play against Blissey. Raikou, for example, if it's Rest Talk, will actually probably beat Blissey 1v1 most of the time. Zapdos obviously can pass or sub-pass to something that really hammers Blissey. And then Gengar can just blow on the nurse's face, but it can also wow taunt. And even if the Blissey itself deals with it, which is not always the case, still a threat to the rest of the team, especially with spikes down. Blissey is not a perfect solution, but I still definitely like picking it here if I am in Arctic's position. He's also going to take Starmie, which, generic good Mon, don't necessarily love it into this squad. This is pretty damn good against Starmie. Double electric, Lax that walls it all day, Gengar that's a real threat to it. I'm not saying don't take Starmie, but pretty damn Starmie unfriendly draft already for Gang. The response for Gang, again, logical. Going to take Milotic into the Salamence drafter. All about that pick. And then he's also going to grab Arrow because I think it is too good to pass up here, not to mention the fact that it's quite good against things that you already have. The Raikou, the Zapdos, and the Gengar in particular are all things that don't really want to play against an Aerodactyl. So that's plenty logical to me, and I love the opening 6 for Gang. That feels very, very strong. But like I said, kind of an inevitability that that was going to happen with these weird bans. And now you see the Arctic strategy come into fruition. So he already banned out 2 Spikers. He took one of the premium spinners, and then to finish out the first round, he's going to immediately go double Spiker here in both Fortress and an early Glalie here. And I would not be surprised at all to see him continue to ban out Spikers or ban out Claydol or what have you. He is committed from round 1 to dominating the Spikes war. Already take 2 Spikers out of the field, and then he just picked 2 Spikers, so 4 of them unavailable, plus the Skarm ban, so 5 Spikers are gone, and none of them are in Gang's lineup. So that illustrates perfectly what Arctic is trying to do, and then of course he's got double Spinner as well. Fori in round 1, I'm down. Glalie in round 1, maybe a little early, but it's like okay against Gang's squad, but he didn't pick it for that reason. He picked it, again, because he is so committed and so tunnel-visioned on winning via spikes. So yeah, if that's the plan, then this is a pick. This is the kind of pick that you have to make. Fair enough. Arctic's staying true to the plan. Let's see how he proceeds. Gang, as the Aerodactyl drafter, removes Swampert, which I don't love or hate, but keep in mind that having the next 2 picks, Gang could have taken Swampert, and he also does not have a rock resist right now, so it's interesting that he's decided that he just doesn't want it. He obviously has something else in mind that he wants to take, since, like I said, could have taken Pert, and is clearly opting not to. Arctic, as predictable as ever, what's he going to take out? A Spiker. 6 Spikers out of play. Not a single one on Gang's team. Gang is going to opt for Jolteon here. Again, logical. Has double electric here. Wants Jolteon to not be there. It's also good against Milo. It's also good against Gar. Coin Flippy against Aerodactyl. Not where you want to be. Logical ban. I was halfway expecting Arctic to take Claydol out here, which would be doing Gang a favor because it's pretty good against the double electric on the other side. But, silly me, Arctic doesn't ban Spinners. He bans Spikers only. So why ban a good Mon like Claydol when you could instead ban a Jankmon that probably wasn't going to get taken anyway, like Quillfish? Did I mention that Arctic really, really, really wants to have spikes and for his opponent to not have spikes? Did I mention that anywhere? That is 7 spikers gone before the end of round 1, or I guess at the end of round 1. I sense a pattern here. Maybe you guys do too. Here are the picks for Gang. He's going to go Gyarados, love it, as the Zapdos drafter. And Moltres. Unclear just how good fire types are going to be. Where the Regis land is definitely a factor, but as it stands, even without factoring in Regis, Metagross, Celebi, Fori, Glalie, looks to me like fire types are going to be pretty good against Arctic, so totally down with that pick. He had the option of Zard or Moltres, or both, I guess, but of the two, he's made it clear he prefers Moltres. I'm totally fine with that pick. As it stands, going to be a threat against Arctic's squad, and at some point, he's going to have to grab an answer for that. The response is going to be Flygon, interesting, and Regice. I think that these picks are largely targeted at the double electric on the other side. They're both, in theory, good against the double electric, though obviously either of them can have HP Ice, and all of a sudden Flygon not so good. Flygon is also, in the same vein as Claydol, going to probably be good against Aerodactyl. Obviously Aero can still click Double Edge, and Flygon doesn't love that, but it doesn't hate it either. You can be bulky with Protect, Toxic Sub, whatever, and have some play against the Aero. And Regice is a legit special wall. Bolt Beam pretty good against what Gang has shown. In fact, Zapdos, Gengar, Milotic, Gyarados, Moltres, all of them, Aerodactyl, all vulnerable to some end of the Bolt Beam. Gengar, I guess, isn't weak in the traditional sense, but it doesn't really take Stab Ice Beam that well, and it doesn't want to get hit with T-Wave, so I like Regice here. These picks both make sense to me. Nothing too crazy, and we will carry on. Gang here, heads up drafting, is going to protect his Aero even further, and it's going to protect his Moltres, but he's going to go with Regirock and Steelix. Both of these picks make a ton of sense in my mind. Again, he is double electric. Of course you're going to take Steelix out of play. In fact, he's double electric plus lax, so Steelix is a very good mon against Gang, and I think that was a very wise pick. If he's not going to ban it, very wise to take that for yourself and not let your opponent have that. Now, granted, I don't think Steelix is all that good against Arctic squad. It seems pretty bad, in fact. And hell, the way it's looking right now, he may not even end up running it, but I still think it's a good pick because I think it would have been that damn good against you. It's good against all of Lax, Double Electric, and Aero. You really, if you are Gang, do not want to play against Steelix, so I'm totally on board with him taking that out of play, even if he doesn't necessarily end up running it. And then Regirock has been very well respected, has been taken very early, especially as the tournament has proceeded. It's been a round 2 pick pretty consistently, and here it is again. It's good against both the birds here. It's also reasonable against Gyra. It's good against Aero. It's good against Lax. These are 2 good protection picks. The Regirock, I think, might actually get played. The Steelix, maybe, but right now it is not exciting. On the other side, Registeel, and Wheezing. So Arctic, unsurprisingly, going pretty stally since he's got those spikers already, and it's just organically the style that he gravitates towards. And this fits the bill. I'm glad to see Wheezing this early. Again, I think it is much better in this than it is in OU, and I think somewhere in the second round is probably about the right place for it. It's pretty good against the Lax in particular. It's also really good against fighters, but none of those have been grabbed yet. And it's also randomly going to be decent against the Gyra, to a lesser extent the Arrow. It's basically invincible against Steelix other than getting boomed on. Same thing with Regirock, basically invincible other than getting boomed on. I like Wheezing quite a bit in this format, and it really fits the bill for the stally teams that Arctic is trying to build. No problem with those picks whatsoever. So more fire action, which has obvious appeal. Entei and Dragonite, totally down here. These seem both very threatening in their own way. This is kind of a reverse of the draft that I just finished, where Tyros was taking all the aggressive stuff and the Firemons and the Mixed Breakers, and Zockeru was drafting all stally stuff. This is basically that in reverse. Arctic as player 1 is going very, very stally, and Gang is countering that by taking a bunch of Firemons and Mixed Breakers. Dragonite in particular, pretty good against like Blissey plus Physical Wall kind of things, as in general. It's certainly a threat against both Regis and against Flygon. It can have Flamethrower, it can have Ice Beam, it can have Focus Punch. Definitely like me the Dragonite pick. I would like to see him pick out Charizard. Maybe Arctic will take that for himself, but I think Zard, in the same vein, is a threat to Arctic's squad as well. I'm cool with the Entei, given all the fire weaknesses, 6 fire weaknesses, in fact, on the other side. It's one of the few special attackers / Calm Minders that can genuinely beat Blissey, so that's certainly a perk. Yeah, good with these picks as well, and we will see how Arctic proceeds. Going to go Dugtrio here, which I believe he banned out in a previous round, so he's obviously got respect for this Mon. And then Porygon 2, a bit of a head-scratcher. I think that might be as simple as after he takes Dugtrio, he does not want to give his opponent the opportunity to take the Dugtrio counter pick in Porygon 2, which, fair enough, I guess. It also functions as kind of a bulky water, which he doesn't really have right now. The Milo is on the other side. The Swampert got banned out. So Porygon 2 is basically a bulky water in this context. It also protects a couple other things vaguely. I guess like his Flygon, for example. He doesn't want that to get traced against. I'm okay with the P2. I don't know if Gang had it on the brain. Maybe the Dugtrio would have prompted him to take it. I don't love or hate the P2 pick, but I could see why he would make it there. Certainly after taking the Dugtrio, it gains value. And he needs a bulky water, which P2 effectively is. So, like, begrudgingly, sure, fine. P2, probably underrated in this, but a specialized Mon, certainly. Perhaps with the Flygon and the Dugtrio, this is the time. The Dugtrio itself, which was the meat and potatoes, I mean, you're against Raikou, so there's that, but I don't see a lot of other great targets. I know that Zapdos, Gengar, Aerodactyl, Gyarados, Moltres are all not good targets. Same thing with D-Knight, so a lot of flying and Levitate on the other side. You can get like Raikou, and to a lesser extent, Lax, Regirock, and Steelix. I guess. I stand by my position that Dugtrio just isn't good, but Arctic, show me. Prove me wrong. And rounding out the round, Miltank. Love me the Miltank. And Breloom. Miltank, generally a fire-type counter in this format with Thick Fat, being himself the double fire drafter and possibly aiming to pick up Charizard later. Going to remove that from play. Also Lax in particular, but many of these things really, really appreciate Heal Bell support, so he picks that up as well. Dragonite also a potential Heal Beller, and I like me some Loom against this kind of squad. Blissey, Regice, Registeel, all slower, fighting vulnerable Mons that you can Spore and wreak havoc as you start focus punching or whatever you want to do. Very much a case of strategy versus anti-strategy. Stall against aggro, trying to crack through the stall. Love the contrast. Love to see it. Let's continue. And in the least surprising bans of all time, would you believe that Arctic is banning a Pokemon that learns spikes? Prickler banned. On the other side, rap/R&B superstar Missy Elliott removed from the fold. Not sure why he's afraid of the Mystery Vest. I'm looking at it. It doesn't seem... I mean, it's annoying because it can have the trap sets, but, like, I don't know. Is Mystery Vest amazing against Gang? Maybe he's thinking he's going to take spinners and he just doesn't want spin blockers to be there. He himself has the Gengar, but Dusclops is still in the field. Not sure about the Mystery Vest ban. I don't know if I were Gang if I would be afraid of Mystery Vest here, but... I mean, he did just pick up Miltank Breloom, so maybe in general he just doesn't want Ghost to be there. Of note, all the Pursuit users are still available, so if Arctic wants, he can take, like, Umbreon Houndoom and make life much more difficult for the Gengar than it was just a moment prior. Not sure on the Missy ban. I think I don't love it, but that's what he banned. And Arctic. All 6 bans. Legit all 6 bans on Spikers. What's to say at this point? Broken damn record. Omastar off the table for Arctic. Gang is going to come back with Alakazam. Probably better against him than it is for him. Probably one of the overall stronger Mons remaining. I'm okay with him getting that out of there. We move back over to Arctic. I'm surprised that he did not take the Claydol before, and I'm equally surprised that Gang allowed this to happen. I kind of think you should have banned that over the Mystery Vest when you are double electric plus arrow. So, of all the things that he didn't let through for reasons similar to that, Steelix immediately standing out, Regirock, etc., I don't know that I would have let the Claydol out either. But this is, I mean, again, not that Gang even has the opportunity to take Spikers since Arctic's banning them all. But if he attempts to take Spikers late, good luck. 3 spinners on the other side. The Spiker that you're going to take is going to be absolute garbage because all the good ones are gone. Arctic has certainly cemented that he is going to win the Spike War, if there even is a Spike War. Doesn't look like Gang is going to be participating in that. And like I said, I like Claydol against the double electric. Unlike something like Flygon, Claydol does not have a double weakness that the electrics can exploit with hidden power. And it resists rock for purposes of the Aerodactyl, and to a lesser extent, the Regirock as well. Alongside the Claydol, he's going to take Heracross. I mean, there's a Lax on the other side that's good enough. If it happens to go against the Miltank or the Steelix or the Regirock, fine and well. But Heracross, pretty highly valued in this format. Getting it in round 3 is just good value. I don't know that it's amazing against the team on the other side, but Heracross is always a threatening Mon and never going to be bad. Totally fine taking that. Gang, Vaporeon here, denying Arctic of bulky waters even further, and then taking yet another Firebreaker. Zard that I thought he should have grabbed earlier, he's going to grab it now. Still very much a threat, as are Moltres and Entei and Dragonite. I definitely think that Gang has equipped himself with the tools to be able to break through what Arctic has assembled here. Arctic, on the other hand, he's going to go with Umbreon, another Stally Mon, Special Wall-ish Mon, also good against the Gengar on the other side. And he's going to also take Medicham. That might be a defensive pick. Both Heracross and Medicham are certainly things that Arctic does not want to play against himself, though I guess he does have the Dugtrio. I don't love fighters against Gang's draft, but again, with a Lax on the other side, you've got to do what you got to do. You got to get layers against it. Medicham, more so than most other fighters, can threaten Gengar, Zapdos, what have you. It's good against Miltank, obviously. Medicham is one of my favorite fighters in the format, and it gives him a little bit of proactive play here. on what seems to be a pretty stally overall draft for Arctic. But yeah, Medicham is just a good mon in general, and like I said, I like taking Pursuit users into Gengar user, so Umbreon is good. See if he takes Houndoom as well, but for now, I'm cool with these picks. Slowbro and Hariyama, the response for Gang. Loading up on mixed breakers yet again. Charizard, Slowbro, Dragonite, exactly the kind of thing that you want against this kind of stally, slow, defensive squad that Arctic has drafted. And then Hariyama. Yeah. I mean, fighters obviously have merit here. He does have tools to combat it. Salamence, Celebi, Weezing. But it also has a lot of upside. It's also good against the Blissey, the Glalie, the Regice, the Registeel, the Umbreon. And again, it's just a good mon that is usually not available this late. So taking just a general good mon that might be the best thing still available. No objection. This pick I find interesting. He's going to go Dusclops, Y, and Venusaur. I mean, I guess with Dusclops you're protecting your spikes, but like, is your opponent even trying to spin here? Not a single spinner has been drafted by Gang. I think he has completely, utterly given up on participating in the Spikes War, given the strategy that Arctic has employed. All the spikers, all the spinners, it's all for Arctic. Gang doesn't have a single spiker or a single spinner on his entire squad, and I don't think at this point he's about to switch it up and try to grab one. What is even left? Blastoise? Tentacruel? Sure. I guess this is just a little bit of protection, just in case Gang tries to grab a Pokemon like that, tries to grab a Blastoise or a Tentacruel or something like that. Dusclops just gives him a little extra layer of padding if he tries to do that. Beyond that, I don't see much point to picking the Dusclops. I don't know what on this squad it counters, I guess. It can force Lax to run Shadow Ball, kinda. I mean, boosted Earthquake still hurt the Dusclops, but you can run like Wow Pain Split and things like that, kind of like Weezing is going to do and be annoying for it. The Dusclops does not blow me away, but if he's taking that just as an insurance pick for a potential late Blastoise, late Tentacruel, if you just want to be absolutely sure that your opponent cannot take spinners and spin through you, then fine, you've got a Dusclops. But if Gang does not end up taking spinners, then I wouldn't be surprised if Arctic does not even play the Dusclops. And it sure doesn't look like Gang has any interest in bothering with spinners at this point. He is going to instead go for General Goodmon and Sleep Counter Kangaskhan, and also Espeon. Espeon is interesting. As far as psychic weaknesses, there are a handful for Arctic. Weezing, Venusaur, Heracross, all of which are outsped by Espeon, so like there's a little bit of play there. It can also pass Calm Mind boosts, which there are many special or mixed threats for Gang, so they would certainly appreciate being on the receiving end of some CM generosity. It also has Synchronize as another kind of sort of way to deal with status, which is a nice little combo with his two Heal Bell users. It also has Wish, just a little utility mon at the end that maybe will find a home on one of the teams, maybe will find a role. Anything that's aggro, anything that pushes the damage through has been the sole game plan for Gang in this draft, given that Arctic has completely monopolized the spiker spinners. And finally, Arctic is going to take the miniature Swampert in Quagsire, and then he's going to take Slow King as well. And yeah, I guess he just saw those as the best bulky waters available. Interesting that he himself didn't take Blastoise there. Not that he needs it against a dude with no spikers, but rather as just one final denial of a rapid spinner. But I think he believes at this point that Gang is just not bothering, and fair enough. Quagsire over some of the other bulky water options available. has merit because Aerodactyl on the other side, you really want that rock resist. And yeah, it just fits his overall very stally theme. And Slowking might be just his second choice out of the bulky waters that are available. Again, for the reasons that we've already been discussing, no spikers on the other side. Maybe he's just not that drawn to Blastoise, and even less so to Tentacruel when you're not taking it as a rapid spinner. So all things considered, and you don't want to take a bulky water like Lapras or Walrein that's weak to rock when there's an Aerodactyl on the other side, you end up with Quagsire and Slowking. But yeah, I mean, like Milotic got taken, Vaporeon got taken, Slowbro got taken, Swampert got banned out. Choices kind of running thin, so Quagsire and Slowking, and I guess Porygon too, are gonna be your bulky waters. And finally, to finish off the draft, unsurprisingly not even bothering with a spinner at this point. That is out the window. Gonna just take Blaziken. Hard to argue with that if you watch the Zakaru and Funk series from last round. Blaziken obviously has really, really high upside, and it is yet another fire Pokemon against a plethora of fire weaknesses, and a lot of those things are also weak to fighting. It is a little bit redundant, like Regis and Registeel both being fire weaknesses, they're also fighting weaknesses. But Blaziken, I think, is going to be just a general threat against Arctic. So this is a polarizing draft. Like I said, Gang took 0, made absolutely no attempt. No spikers, no spinners whatsoever. So Arctic is going to get his spikes down in 2 of the games, and there's going to be absolutely nothing Gang can do about it. As far as Rapid Spin, Arctic does not even have to bring it, so he's going to get max value out of his Starmie's, Fortress's, Claydol. None of those are going to be resigned to using shitty Rapid Spin. Obviously a really bad combat move, but it's going to free up a spot so they could do something else. That's obviously good for Arctic. It's hard. It's really hard to know who won this draft. Man, I think I like Gang's position a little bit better. Arctic is probably the better ADV player, but I don't know enough about Gang to say that with tremendous confidence. And likewise, I don't know if I could say that Arctic is the more experienced ADV player, because again, I just don't know Gang well enough to know if that's actually true. It's tough. I really don't know, but I really think Gang did a good job of giving himself the tools that he needs that could realistically break through Arctic here. I think I just look at all the threats. I look at Moltres, Entei, Dragonite, Breloom, Blaziken, Charizard, Slowbro. It just, I don't know that Arctic has the tools to deal with all of that. And certainly just like a mixed wall, a generic wall like Milotic or something would have really helped. But Gang took that. I don't know. Arctic's a good player and he knows what he's doing, and he's going to be very, very comfortable with his teams. He very much drafted the kind of thing that he has a ton of experience with and is super comfortable piloting. But I don't know. I think Gang gave himself enough. I think Gang has the tools and has enough breakers to push through Arctic's defenses. So I am going to predict, if you hold a gun to my head and make me make a pick right now, I'm going to predict that Gang won this draft and will win the match. But it's really hard to tell with these things, especially with a new format. So, as always, I want to know what you guys think in the comments section. In the description, you can join my Discord server if you've not already done so, and I ask you to kindly just take one moment real quick, right now, click, that's how long it takes. Click that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you've not already done so. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. More content to come. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a lovely day or evening, or whenever you may be watching this.